And welcome, students. As we get into our next programming language, we've already discussed Python. Now we're going to look at C. And for this exercise, we're going to actually look at an online compiler, simply because it's just another tool that we can look at. There are ways to build it into things like Eclipse, but for our purposes, we're just going to use this since we are just kind of, just getting the gist of how to use C. So this is the website here, onlinegdb.com, and we are going to make sure that when we use this site, we change our language right here to C. All right, and right now you can see I have a Hello World program. So let's go ahead and run Hello World, and you can see it will compile the program and it will output it. So nothing really kind of rocket science from what we're used to seeing. Now you will notice that unlike Python, it's a much more a return to the standard syntax that we're kind of more used to. So you see like there are curly brackets, there's semicolons, because it's using those terminators to indicate a line of the line versus dynamic white spacing that Python will use. All right. Now you will also notice that there are some differences in how a C program is set up versus what we're used to like in Java. For example, you'll notice instead of like system.out.println, we have printf, hello world. Okay, that's it. And it, of course, return 0, which is something that we put in there right now just to kind of keep the compiler happy. So this is our hello world program. Now, it's very similar in C to what we're more used to in Java versus Python. So if we go in, want to, let's say, create a variable, one of the things to notice about, and I'll have this all here in this resource that will be linked here. With variables, you'll notice that we are back to our familiar types like of int, char, double, and float, because these are things that exist within inside of C. And so Java is actually based on those. You also see we have our familiar escape characters that are also in there. Literals, constants, of course. You can use the const keyword to indicate that it's a constant. So let's go ahead and just look at a couple different variables. So I'm just going to create an int, and let's just call it num1. I'm going to set that equal to 3. And let's do a num2, set equal to 5. And let's do num3, have that equal to the sum of num1 plus num2. And I'm going to change this printf here from hello world to num3. All right, now this is how we would expect this normally to be in Java, or pretty similar format. All right, so let's just go ahead and run this. And it's going to compile, and you can see we have an error right here inside of this function. Okay, it says C line 14. All right, num3 undeclared. So, I didn't declare the type. So let's give it an int, rerun this. All right, and you can see we have this time a different kind of error. All right, and that is because of our printf. All right, printf does not work the same way that we're used to, like even in Python or in Java, where we would just like output the name of the variable. Instead, if we want to do output, and you can see that here in the notes that we'll have linked for you, is that with output, you can see it's a lot more fickle in some of the things it has to do. All right, so with an integer, when we want to print things or when we want to input those as well, you can't simply just say, hey, it's this value. So like, for example, here's an integer output. It says like number equals colon, modulus, there we go, right word, D. All right, test integer, which is the name of the value. So we're going to use that here. So we have to do our mod D num3. All right, now let's give that a run. And you can see we get 8 now. All right, this mod D means, of course, like decimal. So that is the format that you want it to print out. All right, so this is very much similar more to like the printf that we did in Java, which we touched on just a little bit, but we didn't really do too much with, because a lot of the stuff we can kind of do other things with Java to get what we want. But here's the printf. This is where this comes from. This is from C. So you have to, if you want to do a integer output, do something like this. Now, what about if I had a string? All right. Now, strings are, of course, just strings. And so let's just say string sentence equals I am a sentence. All right, now let's go ahead and do another printf, and I'm going to have it output sentence. Run. All right, unknown type string. All right, now that's because if we look at the data types, all right, we have int, char, float, doubles, etc. All right, so there is no string type that you might be used to seeing. All right, so if you wanted to output a something that's more like a value like this, so here we can just print f of that value. All right, so we will get, here's how you can print characters. Input outputs, enter an integer. Here's float and double. We have character IO, ASCII, multiple values. But one thing you will not see in here is that of strings. Because well, remember in Java, strings are actually something that was its own class. And there is a section down here in programming strings that you can look at if you want. But for our purposes, strings are something really kind of unique how they're handled in C. If you kind of look at this, you can see that it uses actually a array of chars. And if you think about it, in Java, that makes sense because Java is based off of C. Java has string as a class, and so what it actually is, it's a array of characters that represent that string. So that's why in Java it's not a type, it's a class because it's based around C and C++. So here, if I wanted a string, I'd have to actually create a char array and kind of go from there. So for our purposes, for just kind of getting started here today, we're not going to actually worry. Oh, if I can find the right thing, here we go. We're actually not going to worry about strings. So we're just going to keep it to those primitive types. We're going to keep it to things such as primitive types like int, double, chars. So keep it simple. All right. Just so that we can kind of get the basics of C, because remember, this does not have classes. So you won't be making classes in C. So the very basic thing now, the one last thing we have to, of course, show is how to get input. So let's say I want to please enter an integer, because obviously sometimes we need to get input. So the way you do that is with scanf. So it's going to scan the keyboard for a value. Now, if you notice here, you can't just put keyboard.nextInt. It's not going to work. But I could do the same way I did printf. I have to dictate the format. So I'm going to do mod D. And then what it's going to go to. So and you can see that here very much in the input-output notes that I've linked in from this website. If we go down and look at this is output, I want input. So like here's an example. You have your A, B here, so your variables. So here's integer input. And you would just simply put the name of the integer or the variable that you want to put in. Now you will see there's one other little thing here that's a little different from what we're used to. We have to put the ampersand in front of the variable that we want to put in. So if I wanted to have another int, let's just call it input. All right, input num. If I just put input num in here, I don't need to save it, I just need to run it. All right, you can see that it says format expects a type of int, but argument has type int. So it's kind of like, well, what do you want me to do with this, kid? All right, and it doesn't know what to do with it because we have to, of course, if we put the ampersand there, rerun this. Now, of course, we don't have that warning there. All right, type number, just exit. I didn't do anything with it. So if I were to print, let's just do mod D, and we're going to have it say input num. Now, of course, it should output that value. So we'll run. All right, we got something got put out here. Oh, and it's because I put the ampersand in there. Remember, that only works for when we have to do the scanning. So there's my 5. Now, one thing you will notice is that there's no carriage return here. All right, because printf is just like print versus print line. It does not return to the next line. So after I did this right here, if I wanted please enter an integer to be on a new line, I could do, I believe, the escape character for a new line, and that would do that piece there. Now, I can't remember which screen that was on. I think that was on, is it keywords and identifiers maybe? Show the list of the, or is it variables and constants? Just looking for the list of escape characters. Here, there. So a new line right here is /n, just like what we're used to in Java. So if I were to put in here my /n, I could, of course, put it right here and run this. You can see now it's on a new line. Hit 5. There it is. Of course, I could try putting this escape character in here. So let's just say I do /n. You can see now I have two new lines. So you can put that new line in here. It's because it's running. There you go. So I could put this new line character right in here. So the thing you gotta kind of think about is wherever you see this mod D, that's whatever's going to be output for this number. So this is just like, hey, here's generate what your output's going to look like. So it's good to kind of see that. And what's if I wanted to put out more than one number? All right, so let's say I want to do input num plus num3. All right, so if I run this one the way that it is, okay, I'm going with 5, we get 13. So nothing really kind of rocket science about that. It works just as we would expect it to. So there's our basic arithmetic operations. That's pretty much the gist of what we need to know to kind of get started here with C. The last thing I want to show you is how you're going to actually turn this in. So you're going to use this program for our C unit, but how do I actually turn this code in? Well, the easiest way to do that is when you're working in this website is pretty much you're going to have three things. You're going to have your new file, you have run, and you're going to have save. Those are the three buttons you're going to need. All right, so when you come here and you want to make a new program, you can click on new project or just click new file. If I click on new file, it's going to ask me to name it. So I'm just going to call Hello World. So here's my Hello World program, right? Now, you notice that there's nothing in here at this moment. So I'd have to, of course, dump different things in here. I can, of course, delete it. I can also click on create new project, leave page. And you can see if I click create new project, boom, it puts like the include studio and main, all that I need in there to kind of get started. Now, of course, you saw me clicking run to actually run the program. Boom, there it is. Now, if I want to actually turn this program in, what you do is you're going to click this beautiful save button. All right, so of course I deleted my other thing. So hello world, click save. All right, and you can see now that it's saved. So it's right here. And then you might wonder, well, how do I get this program down? Well, there's a download code button right here. So if I go and create a new project even. So here's create new project. Even if I don't save it, save's good if you don't want to, if you don't finish it all. But once you're ready to turn your program, click download code. You can see it's going to download this main.c file. That's what you're going to turn in. So you don't have to worry about anything else, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in Notepad. I'm going to look at your code. Life is going to be golden. I can even copy and paste it in here if I want to run it. So that's all you really have to do. And hopefully that gives you everything you need in order to get started as we look at C. All right, it's a very beautiful language. It's been around since the mid-1970s. So still widely used, especially in assembler level things. So let's get started.